Welcome to Stranger Encounters. This is Tommy Salmons. Today's guest is a very funny comedian out of Austin, Texas, and a self-described just a guy. Eric Nimmer. Hey, Eric.
Hey, what's up, man? Yeah, I'm definitely just a guy.
Just a guy, just hanging out.
Hey, it goes like that sometimes. I was actually wondering if you were going to say Salmons or Salmons. I'm just curious, just because different parts of the country, you would say your last name different.
Yeah. Well, I'm from Louisiana, so.
Ah, okay. That makes more sense. Makes way more sense. Because, yeah, if you come up north, it's going to be definitely Tommy Salmons.
Yeah. It's going to be a multitude of fish.
Oh, yeah, no, but it's just Salmons, though. Like, they do not pronounce the L whatsoever. It's not happening.
Yeah, my wife lived in London for a while, and I always make fun of her because she likes the way that I guess it's the people from like Newcastle talk or whatever, and they don't pronounce T's. So like when they're saying water, it's like wa, and it's like, come on, man, like you gotta at least like say something.
Cool. That sounds horrible. Like, yeah, why would you?
She does it much better than I do. I'm not an impressionist. Don't get me like swearing on the Bible on that one.
Water, just like when you say it like that, it sounds like a toddler learning to speak. Like, I don't know what you want. Like, are you trying to say Wawa? Like, what do you mean? That's nah.
Well,
Shout out to Newcastle.
You're in comedy. So how did you get started in comedy?
I'm still fairly new to comedy. It's actually one of my good friends who I was just talking to. He kind of nudged me. I used to like going to the shows, and like when I was in school, I would go to the open mics and just watch and figure it out. But I'm neurotic. It's a puzzle piece, and I like it. But I never really thought I could do it or could perform, especially when I saw like really talented comics. And then I started watching the open mics, and I was like, oh, this is not that unattainable. And then it kind of devolved to one of my good friends was just like, hey, man, the way you tell stories, and I mean, he's a good friend now. I had just met him, and he goes, do you do comedy? And I go, no. And he goes, well, you talk like you do comedy. Like the way you present ideas and the way your rhythm and your timing, like you remind me of one of the guys that does stand-up. He goes, just go to one open mic and don't ever do it again if you don't want to. And that was kind of it. It's like, what, 2 years ago? 3 years ago? 2.5 years ago.
Really? And you got a pretty, regular gig opening up for Owen Benjamin across the country.
Oh yeah, I do go with him, and I go separate now too. Like it's wild. Like I got spoiled real early. Somehow, like by the grace of God, I guess. But I've been spoiled.
How did you manage to start opening up for Owen?
Actually, it's funny because I'm sitting in his house right now. I was an extra on a Comedy Central commercial that like Old Spice is doing with South by Southwest. And the premise of the commercial was, it was like while people are waiting to get in line in the venues, they were going to do like how they do the silent parties with the headphones on, and they would play comedy. And you were supposed to sit there and fake like you're enjoying it. And so you have this guy who's playing the piano and doing funny songs. And then he starts talking about people that are on the line, and he starts making it more and more real to the point you realize he can see you. You're like, oh, that's weird. And then he just popped out of nowhere and starts messing with you. And him and I kind of hit it off laughing about that. And then I asked him, he was headlining a show later that night, and it was like with the Lucas brothers, Hannibal, a bunch, like it was a star-studded real life show. And I had just asked him, I was like, hey, can you get tickets to that? Can I like crash? I just want to go. And I don't think he knew I was a comic even. He was just like, I was like, oh, I just want to go. And he was like, yeah, man, you'll be my guest. And Owen's like that 100%. Like if he loves comedy just passionately. So if you show an interest in it, he'll take you wherever and be like, yeah, let's just come on. And so I went, watched the show. Then we had probably one of the wildest stories I've ever had of meeting one of my friends of a night. And then Walter was born. That next morning or that night. No, it was that early next morning. His first son was born. And then he was like, hey, because I had said something haphazardly about me doing comedy. He was like, if next time I'm in Texas, I'll hit you up and you should come to the show. It's like, sure. So he goes to Fort Worth a few months later. It's like, no, it's about 6 months. And when I'm there, he was just like, hey, you got 5 minutes? Because you can just go on stage. Like, I'll give you 5 minutes because the way you handled yourself in Austin, I liked it. You can just go. And he had never seen me do comedy, had never heard me tell a joke. I don't even think I was funny that particular night. And he was like, all right, we'll see. And it went well. And then he got up there and was like, he told everybody how he met. And he was like, thank God that worked out because I had no idea who this kid was. And then it came to it whenever he came to Texas, he just like hit me up and was like, hey, man, you can come feature. Like, actually, I was thinking I was opening, so I was getting like 10-minute sets. And I was like, oh, this is going to be great. And I was new still. And he was like, no, man, you get to do the feature set. You get to really go for it. So that was wild. But yeah, it just kind of happened.
Oh, that's pretty cool. It's just being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, it has happened that way a few times. As long as you, it's more of a true to self. And if you truly hustle at something, like if you will find yourself in the right place more often than not if you're doing what you're supposed to do. Like if you wake up and you actually try to hustle or whatever field it is. And I mean, I've been in various career fields and done, like if you wake up early to go do something or whatever your passion is, you will haphazardly end up in places where other people feel that way too. And they can help you figure it out. Like, because I hit up my friend about doing the South by thing. I was like, South by Southwest comedy. It's in the city. Why wouldn't I go? Of course. Like, I love comedy. Wow. I'm starting to try to perform. Let's go watch some of them. Because of that, you run into people like Owen, who's there working. But, I mean, you want to be there working one day, so why wouldn't you? Like, it's that quick.
Yeah, and that's why I found your labeling of yourself when we were talking, calling yourself just a guy. And I'm like, well, yeah, probably, just to hang out with. But there's a special kind of drive that is behind any entrepreneur or performer of any kind. And you have to have a lot of self-discipline to really keep yourself on track. How do you manage that?
Well, well, it's kind of funny because I mean, I was in the Marine Corps, so that self-discipline thing, that you get taught that real quick. But it's also if you can't motivate yourself to do basic things, you're not doing the right thing. Like whatever field or whatever you're in, you're not really. That kind of drive comes once you hit your chord and you hit, like, it's kind of like if you ever sing along with the radio and you hear yourself harmonize and it just rings true in your ear, you just hear it, you'll get motivated to do it. Like, I know people that are lazy bums, but if it's something they love doing, you'll never have to remind them to do it. You'll never have to wake them up because the sun can't come up quick enough. They can't wait to get to it. That kind of motivation and to get to that or get to whatever goal, if you have that kind of love and passion for it, that drive comes. Like, you can force yourself, and if the discipline comes, it's if you want something that's tangible or down the road and you're just chasing that and not whatever you love doing, then yeah, it takes discipline. You're going to have to wake up early. You're going to have to make yourself go to school or make yourself study. But if you find like something that you just naturally, just for whatever reason, it excites you. Like, I never have to I've heard some comics say they write, they do, for them to write, they'll set a timer a day and be like, yeah, at 3 p.m. I write for this. And I'm not knocking that, but it's like, dude, I don't know if I could be like, oh, I'm going to write for an hour today. Like, in my mind, I'm like, nah, man, I'm going to, like, in every break of a thought I have, I'm thinking, all right, so in my set, about minute 12, that transition, last time I did it was awkward. What am I doing wrong? Like, there's a different word that can go there. I don't like the tempo. What if I sequenced it this way? And that's where, when I go daydreaming, my mind goes back to that. My mind goes back to doing like a better live stream, or my mind goes back to, I just started that YouTube series, that nonfiction with Nimmer. Like, what's another topic? What am I really trying to say here? What am I doing? That comes so secondhand that it doesn't even feel like you're working. Like, you're like, oh, you're out here hustling, like you're working it. It's like, nah, man, that's just really what I like to do. And it just so happens that it pays off when you go on stage. It pays off when you get the filming right. But if you're always thinking about it, you're always conscious of it, those are just on stage practices for me. Like, it's like, nah, man, these are the ideas I was already working with, and I get to express those and get money for it if I don't suck at that. So let's try real hard not to suck at that.
You ever catch yourself on stage in the middle of a bit that you wrote and you stop and you just basically rewrite it on the fly?
Oh, that happens all the time. That's part of it. Like, it's the thing about comedy is it's not like what people think. Like, if you think you're funny in your office or you're funny with your friends, that's dope and that's cool. But being a comedian is not just about being funny. That's part of it. But I wouldn't even say that's the majority of it. Because you need to know stage presence. You need to have structure. But you also have to be able to adapt and read a room. Like, when I'm in a club or if we're on on our theaters or whatever venue, you see the people come in. You can have to get a read and a feel. Like, it's a conversation. It's like if you're telling a story and you're talking to somebody and you can kind of see their eyes kind of glaze over. You're like, oh, I'm losing you. You have to constantly adapt and change what you're doing. Which style, which tone. Am I acting out too much? Am I not really being that persuasive? Like, what exactly is my aim? You're always conscious of that. So that's why you can write a bit, and you know your jokes and you know which way you want to say it. But I never write anything out like verbatim because it depends. What's my mood at the time? If I write it a certain way where I have to be really, really happy and I'm just not feeling that way that day, it won't come across as authentic. You got to still, like, yeah, the content won't usually change, like, far as the substance of the joke, but how I perform it, which angle you take on it, when you say it in the set, that depends on the room. That depends on the moment. You have to feed on what they give you.
Yeah, so you don't really, obviously you have an opener, but you don't like blueprint the entire set because you can know that the mood's going to change at any given moment.
Well, it depends, because once you do so many sets, you can go like, this joke connects to this one well, this one can connect to this one. When do I want to try something new? And you can just call them audible. Like, once you know your jokes and you know, like, the hard part is building up quality time. Like, oh, I can go on stage right now and just drop 30 minutes of jokes back to back to back. All right, if I know I have that in my chamber and I know the strongest, like, how they usually go, or what are my favorite ones to tell, which one I can close on, how I want to open, I can pick and choose in my head how they're going to go. I can go, oh, because the way they reacted to joke A this way, C might go better than B will in this particular moment. Like, this one might go here. Like, yeah, you read that on the fly, and sometimes you can have fun with an audience. Like, when they're really rocking with you, you can just come up with ideas and just talk to them as blunt as you want. And I think that's when the funniest stuff comes out. Because you can just go, all right, you like me, I like you. Let me talk, let me bring you into my broken brain. Like, let me show you what being a comic is really like, because you do just see the world a little off.
Yeah, because I had talked to Owen a little bit about starting to do open mics myself at some point. I'm hoping to quit driving a truck so I can have a little bit more time to write. I had written, I don't know, probably 3 hours worth of material, which tells me that I'll probably have a good 10 minutes worth. And so I had spent weeks doing it, and I actually lost most of the material because I had written it on my phone, and I had to reset my phone. For people that like are thinking about doing it, and what advice would you give them?
One, it depends on what you want to do it for. Like, if you want to do it as a hobby, if you want to just hang out and tell some jokes and join like the comedy community, because there's probably no better group of people to hang out with, then that's one thing. If you want to go and try to be like, one day I would love to be a professional comic, that's different advice entirely. But either way, I would say be fully aware that I don't want to say it's like as damaging or as damning as doing like heroin, but that you're about to take your first taste of heroin. You could overdose and this might kill you and you would be miserable. Or you might get addicted to probably one of the greatest drugs you can ever find. Like, it's kind of, like I asked one of my friends who said he wanted to start. And I was like, all right, imagine, like, which life is better to you? You found a woman you love, she loves you, you got married, you had kids, and your life is really stable, you have a job, it's cool. And then you met the absolute love of your life that shakes all of that, everything else to the core, and you're like, oh, I was just being complacent. This is where, like, this is the greatest thing ever. Every day I wake up, thank God I got to see her. That kind of fake Disney Channel love story, right? Is it better to have met her or to just go about your life peacefully? Because that's what comedy could be. Because I didn't realize how miserable I was until I started doing comedy. I was like, oh, just falling in line it's cool and it's great to get by. And if you don't pay attention too much, I mean, it's what most people do. You go, you get your decent job, you have your family. And I mean, you're not living your dreams, but you're not miserable. It's good. And you got good times and there's nothing to knock that. But then once you do something just truly earth shattering, like, oh, this is what I was probably meant to do. It's so hard to go back. Like I don't know if I wash out completely on comedy for whatever reason. I don't know what my next move would be necessarily. And that's because it's like, oh, once you've seen the top of the mountain, it's hard to go back and just live in the valley. It's like, no, man, I got to see everything. Like, I've got to go across the world. I'm supposed to be going, international again soon. Like, that's amazing for some jokes and because of ideas. It'll be hard to go back to being like a lawyer.
Well, and knowing that it can be ripped away from you at any moment, does that motivate you as far as trying to better yourself and your art on a day-to-day basis? Or do you try to stay within a specific groove that you know works for you?
No, I mean, I personally have a very macabre sense of humor in, like, viewing the world. I am an over-analytical realist. Like, I am a blunt reality kind of guy. And I mean, you see it in my comedy. Like, I'm going to tell you what I think, how it really is. I don't really care. It is what it is, right? They're words. I'm just going to express them. You can lose it all. That actually makes me happy. Like, the idea of, like, look, man, this is a zero-sum game. You go in, like, that makes it, you're playing for keeps every day. So you can take it serious or don't. That's on you. But if you want to make this work, it's gonna also be on you. And you just have to, like, instead of saying, like, if I put in a bunch of work, if I put in these hours and I get really good and then people don't like me, F the crowd, or I don't like them anymore. No, it's more like you should just be eternally grateful for the time they did like you. Like, just always be thankful. Always, like, that's a humbling idea to just be like, hey, man, how you feel one day about me will determine how I might wake up tomorrow. Like, you're being blessed when people show up to a show. Because they don't have to. There's Netflix. There's a bunch of stuff. Like, you are being blessed when somebody listens to your podcast, for example. It's like, you don't have to do that at all. There's thousands of podcasts. But you have to enjoy that and enjoy the moment that you got to do it. Because it's like, oh, yeah, that can be ripped. And then what? And then you'll be like, oh, those times I got to do those shows and I was so worried about doing something bigger and better that I didn't even acknowledge or I took for granted which would have been my biggest and best. Because eventually you will have your last podcast. Eventually I'm going to do my last show, or my last good show, I should say. That I could have already done it. I could have already hit my peak. And it's like, oh, so when you were taking that one for granted and just kicking it by the wayside, that was it. That was your college national championship, but you were so worried about the NFL that you didn't pay attention. Mm-hmm. And that horrifies me a little, but it makes you want to work. It makes you not want to take things for granted. And it also grounds the hell out of me personally.
It keeps you in the moment too, so that you're experiencing every crowd as if it's your last crowd. It doesn't allow you to start looking.
Yeah,
it
oh, I'm
doesn't.
sorry.
No, that's all right. I was just gonna say it doesn't allow you to start like to give up this crowd for tomorrow's crowd.
Oh yeah, and I mean sometimes you want to, and a lot of times I don't even like. It's one thing to say that, and it's like sounds like some lofty idea, but it's like no. Once you're actually going show to show, after you're actually going like, all right, we're in Houston, we're doing 6 shows. It's real easy to be like, all right, this set isn't the one I wanted. I got another one tomorrow. It's okay. Like they start to run together, and especially if since like Owen brings big crowds. So all of those just, you start to go numb to it. And you have to like, hey man, focus. Like every once in a while you have to like go sit in the lobby, or I'll go sit in the audience and watch some, and I'm like, oh, I forgot how real this is. Cause the guy sitting next to me is only going to be at this show. This is the only time you might get him. And he might be the one that gives you your really cool comedy moment. Like, he's a friend of mine now, but he, saw me, forgot he just saw us on a stream, or he saw jokes, and he was like, I'm deathly sick. I'm going, like I was given a terminal diagnosis, and I've been depressed about it for like a year, and you guys made me happy today. That was really good. I'm happy the world, some people still got common sense. Mm-hmm. And that made me, I was like, what if I phoned it in that day? Mm-hmm. Like people's lives, like when they go to comedy shows, some people like to go and just kick it, but some people are like, nah, man, I need to just think about anything else. And if you phone that in, it's like, oh, it's like a dereliction of duty. Like that's horrifying. So yeah, you just gotta go. It's a grounding thing, but I don't think any comic or anybody like performer does it on purpose. But just when you do this day in, day out, and you're like, this is another city, another group of 100 people, like a few hundred. Here's another one. This one's 1,000. Here's another city. Here's another, and it kind of blends. It's weird. I think it's Owen, especially since the way he talks to his fans all the time. It helps keep him grounded. Like it's just like, oh, I actually know some of you. Like I see you guys, or you see me all the time. That's a new pivot in comedy. But just people that just are mega and all they do are the shows. You're just another auditorium. Like it's not, which it sounds so cold, but it's like, yeah, when you're on stage, you barely see anybody anyway. Mm-hmm. So that's why if you ever go to a show, you see I come out before and after, because I want to always think like, oh, this is a bunch of people. Instead of just like, if you go straight, the show, it fills up, they bring the house lights down. When it says spotlight hits you and you come from backstage, you can see maybe 5 people in the front row. Everyone else is dark. And especially if you do like a theater, you see none of them in the front row. You see no one. Mm-hmm. So you're like, oh, this is nothing. Like I'm talking to nothing. Far as I know, this is the same audience as yesterday. Like, I don't know, it messes with you, but you just gotta, that's where self just comes in.
do you learn to start, like, depending on your other senses, as far as that goes? Because you know they're there, but you can't see them. Are you feeling like a vibe, and are you listening for certain cues other than laughter, obviously, but are you listening for
Well, you listen cues? To them, you try to detect movement, and then but at that point, you're so in your head and trying to be like, all right, jokes coming here. I should look this way. I should move this way. I should do like, you're in your rhythm. Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, you listen and you react, and then you can, like people give you stuff back. Like there's all kind of stuff, but that's why a lot of comedy clubs are built to where they pack everybody in real tight and keep the ceiling low. So it stays intimate. You can actually see everyone because you can react better. I think it's not easier to do comedy, but it's more, you can be more effective in those scenarios. Big theaters. Like that's what makes people like Dave and everybody else like amazing comics, because they can be in an arena and see no one, but you would think they're talking to you personally somehow still.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I know personally that that's a lie. Like on stage, I know he can't see anybody. I know for a fact this is not the way this is coming across. But it sounds like, nah, man, he was just hanging with me. Just talking about some ideas.
Well, another thing is I don't think people understand is how much comics work. I've heard Jim Norton say that he's out in clubs 6 nights a week. You know, I know Joe Rogan talks about going out 4 to 5 nights a week. You know, how often are you spending in clubs, and how often are you out there working on your material?
It depends on when we're on tour or not. Like now, since we took the little hiatus, I've been kind of trying to rest up. I'm always writing. I'm always in a club, like just going and watching even. I get a lot from watching other people and seeing what decisions they make. I would say, and this is my low key form, I go at least three a week. I'm doing something comedy related. Especially when I first started and I wanted it more than life itself, and I was like, all right, I got to get better. Boom, boom, boom. And I'm an impatient person. If I have a goal, I don't want it to take forever. Like I'm cool with not getting where I want to be immediately, but I want to see progress. I want to see steps. If it's up to me and my determination, we're going to get there. And, I was going to like 2 or 3 open mics a night. Like, I know in Austin on Monday nights, there's a way you can hit 5 open mics in a night. I never actually tried to do the 5, but I would do 4. I would do 4 easy. And like, I hung out with people that were doing the same thing. And it was like, oh yeah, we would hang out. It was like, so what you guys do today? We went to 4 open mics. Had Lone Stars and drank at like 4 different ones. And we all did 3-minute sets at these different, like, I was going forever. I think stage time wise, like, you could be like, oh, it's been a week. But on stage and relative to what I was doing, it was like, oh, it's about a month's worth. Because he's doing 2 mics a night, or he's doing 3 a days or whatever.
Yeah.
It's rough, especially when you're like actually trying to get new material out. We fly out to a new city, and like now, I was up here shooting sketches, and the baby was born, so it's not like we were doing shows. But say you do a show at night, like I'm doing sound check at the venue at like 6. We're not going to leave hanging out and taking pictures and doing all that stuff until 1:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
I then go back home and I will write and figure things out in the hotel, because I don't like the way this went. Try to sleep some, wake up, eat. I hang out with Owen for a bit, and then you're back to writing and prepping that set, sound check, show, all that again. And if you can, depending on what city we're in, I'll go to a mic before that first set and just go watch and see what's going on. Then you get through that, and then I fly back Sunday, sometimes Monday. Like tonight, I'm flying back. And then I'll be back at the club and stuff tomorrow and start writing and researching. And then I fly out again either Wednesday or Thursday, and it restarts. Right. Like the thing that messes with people is, I was like, yeah, our job is cool, but it's like inverse. A lot of people, like, if you work in entertainment, you don't get to go experience a lot of entertainment outside of your field. Because it's like, oh yeah, what are you guys doing on Friday night or Saturday night? And it's like, oh, working. I'll be like, that's my hours. While I'm watching Netflix or sleeping and napping, and you're doing your 8 to 5 and everybody thinks we got it made. It's like, yeah, but when you get to hang out with your friends and do all these fun adult things, I'm providing one of the fun adult things people like to do sometimes, which I don't mind at all. Like, I'd much rather do that than go to a club. I hate clubs. But the idea of that, though, it's like, no, you're going to work. It's just your hours are different.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're pulling 50, 60 hours a week just like anybody else, but you're only getting paid for you're getting paid for that 50, 60 hours a week based upon your performance one given night. I mean, you're putting the same amount of work in. It's just a matter of.
Every time I step on stage, it's a performance review, and it's so if you do a performance review at work, that you have a set standard that they expect.
Mm-hmm.
That's not really you. Like, it's your ability to do whatever they ask you to do, but that's not you. It's not an indictment on you. You could just suck at doing whatever your day job is. Like, maybe you're an accountant, you're just really bad with numbers. That's not saying you're a bad person. That's just not for you. If you're a comic or a performer and you go on stage, that's you. It's your ideas. It's what you thought was funny. It's how you performed it. It's what you wore that night. It's your attitude. So if they don't like you and you don't get work again, it's like, oh, no, man, you should take that one personal. Like, it was meant to be personal. And I mean, there's good that comes with that too. But, I always think, I tell people the happiest and most miserable moment of my life happens every night that I go on stage. Like when they first call your name, you will have no more apprehension about anything else in your life. Like that's the worst moment ever. Because they'll clap and it gets real loud and then it'll get real, real quiet. And you feel them all expect you like, all right, let's go, funny man, go.
Mm-hmm.
And you just have to be there in that moment and then go on. But then the greatest moment in your life is when you go, all right, guys, good night, and you're about to leave, and then you feel the disappointment. Like if you feel disappointment, they're like, no, man, just come on, just do one more. What do you mean? Like, oh, but thank you, I guess. That is the greatest feeling ever. Ever. Yeah. Especially the realer you are and the more true to self you are, the better that payoff is. It's like, oh, I'm not alone in this. Like, I thought I was crazy this whole time. I guess I'm not. Or we all
right.
Right.
Well, I know the greatest comedy, too, as far as I'm concerned, makes you look at things in a different way. My favorite comics are Bill Hicks, Sam Kinison, and Doug Stanhope. And those guys will make you look at things in ways that you never even could register on your own. And when they bring it to your attention, you were like, oh, shit, okay.
Why didn't I see it like that?
Yeah. People think I'm funny, but they must be laughing at me because, they're laughing with this guy.
Yeah, and if you, and I'll add one more to your list. The OG of that style is George Carlin. Rest in peace, Carlin, the greatest. He is the greatest persuasive observational comic of all time.
Yeah,
all time.
Carlin was awesome.
I don't know anybody that comes close. Just because he'll put out a position and he'll intentionally word it the wildest way you can word something where you're like, that doesn't what? He'll be like, oh, Tommy, I just want you to know your mom's a horrible person. And you're like, what? Don't you ever say and he goes, all right, hear me out. And you'll laugh and he'll make so many arguments that by the end, you'll be like, I'll be damned, my mom is horrible. And you don't even realize the switch. You don't even realize that he brought you to his side and now you're mocking former you. That guy was an idiot. I'm not with him. Keep going, George. George talks about people. He talks about mass genocide and justifies it. He does and making it a pay-per-view event. And it's one of the funniest things. And you're like, that actually, I see the logic that he's going for. Bill Burr is on that list.
Bill Burr's hilarious.
There's a few. I don't know. Have you seen Ricky Gervais's new special or Bobo? Depends on what you want to call
him. I never got into watching any Ricky Gervais.
I beg of you, watch this newest special, the one that came out March. You want to see stand up at it's my favorite special of the year so far.
Oh, really?
And I mean, I watch a stupid amount of comedy. During the
that's
day.
That's saying a lot. You just released a special, so that's saying a lot.
Oh yeah, no, it destroys mine. Oh God, yeah. His is brilliant. He's also in a position to be able to because you have a way you can live with his material because he talks about at the Golden Globes he got in trouble this year. That happened in January. He made a Caitlyn Jenner joke to her face, and everybody got pissed about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
He dedicates about 10 to 15 minutes of his special going, oh, that made you mad? I'll quadruple down. Don't ever play with me. I'm not scared of y'all. And it's gold. And his special was only supposed to be an hour. It's an hour and 18 minutes because he does that extra time just to say, I'm here for comedy. I don't care about you being sensitive. I don't care about this joke is going to happen. And I'm going to make it so all of you that want to get offended, cool, be offended. Be offended by something real. I'll show you. And you're like, oh, that's incredible. It's incredible. And it's hilarious. Don't get me wrong. He's absolutely hilarious with it. But the point that he proves and that he makes is just great. Chappelle did the same thing. Tambourine came out this year and it was really good. Chris Rock. But there's people that go, look, man, I'm not about to kneel to you. Mm-hmm. I'm in here for the joke. I'm going to write the best jokes I can. If that comes at somebody's expense, then it's all in fun. This is not some mean set. A lot of people get comedy wrong because they just try to be mean. No, it's about being clever in using language as you can. All you have is a microphone and a voice, and you're painting pictures. I can talk about right now Bill Hicks bits, and I can picture him wagging his cigarette and being mad. It was like, look, have you ever read it? And it's like, he's not dogging on waitresses. He's just doing him. And it was hilarious. It's like, yes. I actually did South by Southwest with Doug Stanhope. Great guy. If you go to my website when it pulls back up eventually, we had to take it down, but it should be back to tomorrow, I think. But I got the pictures with Stanhope. Great guy. Real nice. He's 100% like he is on stage, though. Like that blunt, just awesomeness.
Yeah.
That's how that man lives, which made me love him even more.
Yeah, I mean, I've listened to a few of his podcasts. I've caught him on Joe Rogan's podcast. He just seems like he is who he is. The most surprising thing I ever found out about Doug Stanhope is he actually writes his bits before he goes on stage. Because I always thought he just came up with a subject and went up there and just like went off the top of his head. Just the way he delivers, it sounds so natural.
Yeah. He's just perfect. Like he's just practiced. Like that's talent. Like that's the professional side of it. If it looks like I rehearsed this in my mirror like 28 times and it comes off like a nervous kid reading his Easter speech. You remember like in church they used to make you read the Easter poems and you could tell the kid who's like their parents just made them memorize it.
Yeah.
That I mean you could be funny and you can kill. You're not a professional. Professional is like it feels like we just got this guy off the street and why is he killing right now? Like it feels like he's just up there like, hey, look, and while I'm on the subject, let me talk about it's a controlled rant. Or like, oh, let me explain something to you. Like old school grandpas be like, look, sit down, young man, let me show you something. That's a professional. Like professionals, like you said, you walk away with something brand new. Like I would have never thought of it that way. And I mean that's probably my favorite comedy style, even though that's not my style, kind of. I do mine, but I do mine in a more intellectual approach. Like I'm not going to be as blunt as like a Stanhope. Sometimes I might, but like I'll do a story or do like my personal comedic hero is Eddie Murphy. If you go watch or Delirious is my favorite comedy special of all time. If you go watch Delirious, he's making salient points. If you go, why would he act this out? What's the point of that? You can make up all the arguments. They're there. But he tells them to you from his perspective. Like, why did I come to this conclusion? Watch me take you through how I went through it. And he tells you the story of it. And I love that. Like, I love that, Richard Pryor. It says like where he got it from and like Lenny Bruce and there's countless other comics. Now it'd be Kevin Hart that's really championing that. Louis C.K. is another one. R.I.P. to his career. But there's a lot of them that do it, and that's like that narrative style is so great to me. Tom Segura is another one.
Tom Segura is really good,
yeah.
Bert Kreischer.
He's got you. Yeah, and Bert, and actually Owen was just hanging out with Bert. And Tom Segura is awesome because after he did shows in Austin, like at Cap City, he'll show up to like the open mics and just go hang out. Like you're like, wait, what? You don't have to do this. You're way too big for it. And it's like, nah, man, damn all that. I'm just another comic like you guys hanging out. Like they kind of treat you like coworkers no matter what level you're at. It's like, no, you get it. Once you've been on stage, if you go on stage 2 times, you are pledged in. Cause it's like, oh, the first time you'll figure out what it's like, but you're so in your head and you're so nervous and you know it's your first time. If you can dust yourself off, whether it went well or poorly, you can get back on stage again. That's the true test. And if nothing else, I tell everybody, go do an open mic. You don't even have to be good or ever want to do comedy again. Just go up there and stand and try to talk to people, and it'll give you an appreciation that you'll love stand-up. It's like how all the commentators talk in sports, and they're all former athletes, and you can hear it in their voice, and you're like, oh, yeah, they looked at this different. They have a different viewpoint. Like, I mean, if Michael Jordan wasn't such a terrible human, I'm sure his insights would be interesting because he's like, oh, yeah, I was the greatest that ever did this at one point. Now it's King James. Go King James. But like that perspective, like Kobe Bryant is actually doing his whole breakdown series now, and it's fascinating hearing it. And I was like, yeah, because he knows what that perspective is like from a court. I can tell
Yeah, he
you what
knows
it's
all
like
the technical aspects of it.
Yeah, and like you just view like, hey, where did I mess up? I was looking into that light too hard. How did he handle that? Like, and it's just things that you can relate to and you look for, and then they pull it down. It's wild. But yeah, I tell everybody they should go.
Well, and one of the craziest things is you listen to somebody like Joey Diaz, and he talks about how he's been doing comedy for 30 years, and he still gets to the verge of vomiting before going on stage because he gets so nervous. And I don't think people understand that. You know, I don't think people take into consideration that aspect of what y'all do.
Oh yeah, no, it happens. I think it's also because Joey, like I think like people that get that level of nervous, well, granted, he's doing like career-altering, life-altering shows all the time. Like he's big enough to where it's like all of these are just crazy. Like I'm still kind of auditioning like all the time, so it's not even like I don't take myself serious enough yet to be that level of scared. I used to get that level of scared because I thought it was like, this is all on the line. This is my moment. Now I'm kind of like, look, man, I'm going to go out there and do my best. I know I've been neurotic and up all week thinking about this set. It is what it is. Though you like it or love it, I'm happy I got to do it.
Yeah.
Like, that's all you can do. But I'm also been extremely jaded by going through terrible and crazy life experiences. So comedy always will seem like, no, it's really cool, but it's kind of just a thing. Like, it's not the scariest thing I've ever been through. It's fine.
Well, you were, when you were a Marine, you were in Iraq, weren't you? Afghanistan. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, you put it into perspective. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You're not up there taking fire.
Yeah, some jokes ain't that serious.
Yeah. I can definitely see that. And how long were you in the Marines?
I got in 2009, and I'm still in the reserves technically, but I'm IRR. I don't do anything now. I got a year left, so it'll be 9 years now, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that is cool. So
it has its moments.
When you're writing, obviously you're trying to write things that, you know, people don't see on a regular basis. How often does it come to fruition that you write something and then you realize, I don't know, an hour later or, you know, the next time you perform it or whatever, that it's almost identical to something that somebody else has already done? Does that ever happen to you?
I've gotten close like once. It's damn memes and one-liners will get you. It doesn't happen to me so much just because of the style I do things in. Mm-hmm. Like I will take a premise or whatever thought I want to have, and I will try to attach it to something that's just deeply personal. So then it's like, oh, what conclusion I come to might be counterculture, it might be something that somebody else could do, but how I get there, what I do with it is gonna be different. Like it's gonna be like, if I talk about like, oh yeah, I'm still young, I'm a Marine, I'm a black kid that went to school a lot, like I did that, like it's hard for people to even be in that lane, yet alone have the same thoughts. I think once you stay too general, then you're like, oh, okay, you might run into issues. But if you do that, it's not that serious. Like you just go, oh, I probably shouldn't do that joke anymore. I should try to switch it up or figure out what am I really trying to get out of that. I mean, it happens. It happens a lot. My friends and I have all just been spitballing before and come up with the same idea. So I mean, it happens. It's not, I don't think everybody that comes close is a joke thief, but there are a lot of thieving people out here. Right. And you see it.
Well, I know, the only reason I ask you that is because you mentioned that you watch a lot of comedy. And I know one of the things that Bill Burr says is he does not watch a lot of comedy because he doesn't want other people's jokes stuck in his head when he's writing.
Oh, no, I love watching other comedy for that, though. Like, I would think the opposite. It's because I can see, like, what is everybody talking about? And I try to steer away from, like if I know everybody on whatever site or whatever I'm doing, everybody right now this month is on stage talking about this. It's like, oh, I don't even want to do that. Like election jokes got real tired after a while. And if you don't watch a lot of comedy, you'll be like, no, man, here's my takes on it. But if you do watch a lot of comedy, you'll be like, man, I'm even tired about hearing about this. No audience doesn't want to.
I think Dave Smith did the best Trump jokes right after the election on Libertas.
Yeah.
When he
that was one of the highlights.
Yeah, when he was going on about he only gassed 250,000 people. You were making it out to be a whole thing. That to me was one of the funniest Trump jokes I ever heard. So,
No, there's some good ones out there. I've heard them, and I've got a Trump joke I love, but it's not even really about him.
yeah.
There's a bunch of things you can do, and there's things you can make jokes about or like target it. Like I don't know.
Well, those misleading jokes can be some of the funnier jokes too, because you think you're going down the road of talking Trump, and then you veer off to something else. Yeah.
Those are my favorite kinds of jokes. Like if you see like in my set, I love a misdirect. Mm-hmm. I will. If you think you have it dead to rights, or if you feel yourself getting emotional one way or another, you should know I'm about to get you. Like you lost. If anywhere in the front of a joke you go, what? It's like, oh, you were supposed to feel that way. I got you.
Right.
Like I love that. It's my thing.
When it comes to structuring jokes, I've heard it said, Dave Smith, I've heard actually say it quite a few times, that there's actually a formula to structuring jokes. When you're watching somebody tell jokes, I don't know if it's as obvious to people as music would be. Like when you're listening to a drum beat, you can keep the rhythm in your head. How do you identify the different rhythms? Because obviously, Owen Benjamin has a different rhythm than you would have. You have a different rhythm than a Doug Stanhope would have. How do you identify the different rhythms and see what is working?
Well, I mean, like those are just stylistic and what you feel comfortable and what you can remember things in and what's funny to you. But as far as the mechanics of a joke go, like the setup, like you have a premise that you can do, setup, punchline, and then tags to it if you want. That doesn't really change. Mm-hmm. And like what makes it fun is you go, all right, so that can't change or won't change. How many ways can you flip this and make it so you can keep disguising it so people don't get hip to what you're doing? Or you can do like setup, punchline, but then that's in the middle of a different joke. And then be like, oh, here's another punchline, and here's another one, and now tie them all back. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh, shit. Like, you can do all kinds of stuff, but the form doesn't change. Like, the mechanics of joke writing do not change. That's why if you ever want to just really get into studying the mechanics, go watch, like, Anthony Jeselnik or go watch any of the Comedy Central roasts. Mm-hmm. Those are all joke writing 101 clinics, because you can actually just see them. Like, you're so this that you look like a that. Ha ha ha. I tell you, that's the worst. Yeah. You're blah blah blah. You ended up boom boom boom. Your career sucks so bad it reminds me of insert absurd analogy. Like there, you can see the mechanics at work, and then you go to a special, for example, and you'll be like, oh, this is this kind of comedy. Like, he's going to be a one-liner. He's going to be a narrative. So that means he's doing this to this conclusion. He's going to do this to this conclusion. Like, that, you can see it. It's just, now that you know it, they're better if they can still trick you. If I can still get you to laugh, you know exactly what I'm trying to do to you, then that's more impressive to me.
Right. One of the things I heard is that Louis C.K. and I don't remember who said this, but one of the biggest compliments I feel like would be to a comedian, at least, that I heard about Louis C.K. is he puts a punchline in every sentence. So every sentence is funny within itself, even in the build up to the ultimate punchline. And they were giving him credit. They were giving him credit about his writing style and the way he wrote. Each individual sentence was structured in a way that it was intended to be funny on its own, as well as within the entire structure of the joke.
Him, John Mulaney, Let's see, Louis, John Mulaney, Daniel Tosh. There's certain people whose pens are just so fucking ridiculous. Like I mean, just amazingly good. Like where you're just like, oh, they're writing to this, and they can perform. Daniel Tosh is a great performer, but their writing is next world. Like you're like, oh yeah, that's just a well written joke. Like Louis C.K. and like joke writing, I would say between him and Chris Rock, I like their styles of how they prep to go on stage. Mm-hmm. And I find myself doing that a lot. But if you get that, if you can figure out which style works for you, that actually might be more fun than even performing. Like the joke writing front end is like figuring out like this piece goes here. I need something else. Okay, I think this is ready now. Like I think that the formulaic side of it is fun. It's like watching a math nerd just go to town and be like, I'm going to find out what X is. I'm going to do it. Matter of time.
Unfortunately, Eric and I were unable to maintain connection. I was having a network problem. But I would like to thank him again for coming on the program. If you'd like to check out his Twitter, at Nim the Great. That's at NIMM the Great. Or check out his YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and search for Eric Nimmer. Also, look for his comedy special. Thanks for listening. This was Stranger Encounters with Eric Nimmer. I'm Tommy Salmons.
Tearing deep within my skin, faded eyes can't see true evil within me. Broken mirror of my life cuts my soul with a knife.